Hand over now to Julia in a sec. And I'm really excited to announce or to introduce Julia, who is a consumer insights expert who leads community and influencer marketing at Houseparty, which I think most of us are probably familiar with at this stage. And Julia's been involved with Houseparty since its very early days. And when I spoke to her a few weeks ago before arranging this event, she has some really fascinating insight and stories about getting their product and their brand off the ground, and how they iterated and grew as a small growing company up to the app that they are now, that is located in over 80 countries with huge engagement. So with that in mind, I will hand over to Julia. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I'm so happy to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. Cool. So I'm gonna speak today about meeting your users where they are and how prioritizing user insights impacts product design and growth from Houseparty's perspective. So hi, I'm Julia. I've been at Houseparty for over 4 years. And as Dave said, I'm the resident consumer insights expert at Houseparty. I focus mostly on Gen Z strategy. We are a broad app that applies to many lives, but our target user historically has been Gen Z, so I'll be speaking a lot about that today. A lot of my job is about translating between the user and the product design team, and helping them prep the roadmap, the marketing roadmap, to make sure that it's speaking to our users. I think many of us here in the tech world and the startup world will know what it's like to wear many hats, and I definitely have done that and continue to do so. Actually, we're owned by Epic Games, so I also moonlight on the Fortnite team as well. But in my role at Houseparty, I've done everything between manage our social strategy, experiential marketing, some of our data even, our direct channels, and most of all, and what I'll be speaking about mostly today is our research program. And then I also currently manage a lot of our influencer collaborations, as Dave said as well. So what's Houseparty? Some of you will know Houseparty from this year, but we've actually been around for over 4 years. We're based in San Francisco, California, which is where I am now. You might be able to see the orange hazy skies behind me. And Houseparty is a face-to-face social network. So we're a video chat app. We allow you to video chat with up to 8 people at a time. You can swipe between rooms with your friends, pop in, say hi, and we're very focused on something that we call presence. So presence is being online. So when I open Houseparty, all of my friends get a notification saying Julia is in the house. That means I'm online, I'm available to chat. And they can swipe that notification and join me. Their friends then get a notification, and those friends can join us too. If we leave the room unlocked, any of our friends can join us. If we lock the room, it's a private conversation. We offer games, activities, different things to do when you're inside the conversation, but it's really up to you how you use Houseparty. It's just about you and your friends. There's no calling. If you've ever tried to call a teenager, you might know that it's probably one of the most anxiety-inducing things you could do to them. And they will screen your call and text you saying, "Why are you calling me?" So we really tried to remove that barrier, and it's something that's really worked for us. Saying that, 90% of our users are under the age of 24. So I'm going to be really focusing on Gen Z here, but definitely this year we've expanded the above 24 quite a bit. Our average user has 23 friends on the app. So for a social network, that's pretty small for a friend graph. And it's pretty unique to Houseparty because, again, it's about the friends that you're feeling really comfortable being face-to-face with. As soon as you open the app, you're in the room. So that could be any time of day. Definitely have some funny stories about people sitting on the toilet when they get a notification to open the app. So you really want to limit the amount of friends that you allow to see in that state, maybe. Another stat is that our average user spends over 60 minutes a day on the app, which is pretty incredible. I believe Instagram's last stat was 39 minutes. So it's great to see how engaged our users are, as well as just knowing that it's quality time. It's time with their friends. It's not liking, it's not scrolling, or necessarily like feeling bad about which filter you're using, etc. It's really about spending time with people. Our mission is to connect people in the most human way possible when physically apart, and that is truer now more than ever. Especially during lockdown across the world in 2020. Again, I think those of you guys in the UK and Ireland will know, probably will have been on your radar this year, precisely because of that reason. And we are so honored to be able to be part of bringing people together in a very human way when they are physically apart. And it's been a wild ride. One thing to note, to Kelly's point about logos and branding, we had our own brand evolution a couple of years ago. But since I'm going to be speaking about some of the tactics we used from the very beginning, you'll see some screenshots that have our old logo, including this GIF right here, which we used for an Apple presentation, where you'll see that little red Solo cup that used to be Houseparty's logo. So the topic of today, what does it mean to meet your users where they are? So many of us will have companies and products and brands that have a subset of our users that are pretty vocal. And it's really easy to kind of only listen to those users. So that's people that write in, people that will post on Reddit or Twitter or reach out with their opinions, often negative. And it's really easy to take those as kind of a big representation of how your users are feeling. And it's very important that you do keep your eye on those, but it's not necessarily representative of the majority of your users or your target users. So meeting your users where they are is about figuring out how to put together a well-rounded user research program so that you can get a holistic perspective and build your roadmap around it. It's also really important that when you're doing any kind of user research that you're creating something that is actionable for your team, and that your insights are digestible for your team. Not everybody is going to feel as close to your users as you are if you're the person running this. And I think being digestible and actionable kind of go hand in hand, but it's really important that you're able to speak to both sides of the business, kind of internal and external, so that everybody feels really aligned and knows, kind of is on the same rocket ship and knows exactly who they're building for. This is especially relevant if your team is not your demographic, which definitely is true for our team. Even though maybe hopefully I look like a teenager, I'm not one. But for some of our team members, they feel very disconnected from exactly who our target audience is. And so, it's great to kind of bring them along for the ride so that they can line up with those users as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that, how to involve your team. Meeting your users where they are is also, it's not just physically meeting them where they are, it's mentally as well. So really being able to step into their shoes, understanding their motivations, the kinds of things that are important to them, the kind of things that, they're motivated by as far as an app, outside of an app, socially, especially in a social network. You've got to understand the dynamics between different friend groups and people and kind of just what's going on in the culture in their lives. Traditional research methods that you might know of are kind of focus groups in a big white room with a two-way mirror, which definitely have their value in a lot of businesses and with a lot of demographics. But it's not necessarily always the most authentic way to speak to your users. And it might not be the place that they feel the most comfortable being themselves, being honest, and giving you everything that they can. Same with very long surveys. Surveys are great. They get you kind of qualitative data and translate that to quantitative pretty quickly if you can get scale. But sending a really long survey out via email might not necessarily be the best way to get your most representative users, and also, can bias the data set a little bit. So it means you're going to get people that open email, which again may not be exactly who you're looking for. It may be people that have time to do a 15-minute survey or are incentivized by whatever the incentive you're giving them, if you're paying them or if you're not. That also biases the data set a little bit. There's no perfect way to do this, but I will kind of walk through some of the ways that we found work best for us. And so really it's just about adapting those traditional research methods to meet your users where they are. So the first step here is know who your market is. I know that this is probably the first step of any business presentation ever in the whole wide world, but I'm still going to start with it because it is important for you to know who your market is. You can obviously, traditional data is going to help you navigate that. Speaking to people, if you're very early, speaking to the people that you know are most engaged will help you kind of figure out where the product market fit lies, and you can kind of explore that with some of these other research methods once you've identified that. So here's a photo of one of our focus groups. So we do still do focus groups. They just are not in one of those big white rooms with a two-way mirror. We are very focused on the way that we make our Gen Z audience feel comfortable and feel like they can speak their mind, be themselves. So I actually have spent few years flying around the US, going to different towns, suburbs, and meeting with throngs of teenagers by renting out pizza restaurants in those neighborhoods. I do a lot of research on our in our dashboards to understand the different neighborhoods, markets, where different behaviors are occurring, which schools that are kind of blowing up with Houseparty, etc. And we'll go to that town, rent a pizza restaurant for a couple of days and have back-to-back groups of teenagers come and hang out with us, basically. And we go in, we do have an agenda, we have objectives, but we do not have a script. And so again, script is very useful in certain ways so that you can really hone into what you're looking for and also create consistency over different focus groups. But in these situations, we go in with, whatever we're working on. We're trying to figure out, a new game or some campaign that we're doing. Trying to understand how that's going to fit in with people's lives. So we'll go in with objectives. We'll get to know these kids. They'll get to know us. Very open with them. I'll share my number. I have a lot of teenage Instagram followers at this point, and just make them feel super comfortable. Some of them will be friends with each other. Sometimes they don't know each other, but by the end of pizza, they are all swapping Snapchats. It's really great, and connecting on Houseparty afterwards. And I think one of the things here that's really fun is some of the anecdotes that come out of these focus groups and insights that we didn't even go in looking for. So actually in Kelly's presentation, she did the question about kind of like, what car are you? Like what sort of animal does your brand remind you of? And one of the sort of icebreakers that we always go in with is about opening up your phone and your home screen and pointing out which apps are who at a house party. So we always get people saying like, oh, well Facebook is the dad upstairs locked in the bedroom, not allowed to come down until like he kicks us out of the party, that kind of thing. And Snapchat's the one like on the table, and those are really fun and definitely helps them bond and helps them kind of understand that we're just there to learn and chat. Another couple things that have come out of this are around ways that teens are evading kind of detection by teachers and parents when it comes to social media, and the ways that they behave there. And one of my favorite ones is how everybody wanted an Apple Watch for Christmas. And in my head, I think about Apple Watches as, fitness and sort of timekeeping and productivity. Everybody wanted an Apple Watch because you can text when you're in your lessons, which seems really difficult, but it means that you can, when your teacher has your phone at the front of the room, you can still text your friends, which is funny. And then on that, they also, it's a no-no to have a clear phone case because many teachers will have you, when you walk through the door, put your phone face down at the front of the room until the lesson is over. And if you have a clear phone case, you have to put your phone down. If you don't have a clear phone case, you pop the case off, put it down, and then it looks like your phone is there. And so those are just some fun things that, again, a survey would not have gotten those anecdotes out of these kids. So when we do surveys, we make them very, very quick, to the point. We really focus on the thing that we're trying to get, because they don't have a huge attention span to kind of tell us all the other things. I think as researchers, we would love to add a lot of different questions, and if we have their attention, just like, let's throw in an NPS question, let's throw in some other lifestyle questions, but we see a lot of drop off. We have to keep it to the point. And in terms of distribution, again, I mentioned email is not the most effective way for us to reach these audiences. They typically don't check email as much as you or I. They don't, they view it very differently, and it's very school related. So, you know, for a survey, we might tweet the link out. We might post it on our Instagram story. We've done them via TikTok, and sometimes, again, through a lot of these activities, I have this kind of little black book of several hundred teenagers and college students that we kind of tap for a lot of different requests, and I can send it out to that list, and they'll post it on their own social media, and we'll reach a lot of different people that way, which is really great. One example of kind of stuff that has come out of our focus groups that has been really actionable has been our games. So we didn't introduce games into Houseparty until kind of early 2019, and we now have trivia. We have kind of a Cards Against Humanity game. We have Heads Up, which is in collaboration with Ellen DeGeneres. And we have Uno that just was released a couple of weeks ago. But when we've been testing games, another traditional research method that you might be aware of is usability. Usability traditionally is getting the product or the game or the feature in front of your target users and walking them through it, observing exactly how they're using it and learning from that. But for us, again, the most kind of valuable feedback does not come from those environments for us. And I think that it can sometimes prevent our users from being their most honest and telling us exactly what they think, because when it's formal, they feel like they have to kind of suit up as well and potentially be a little bit more polite. So when we started launching games, we created a beta build, and so a test flight link with this kind of beta version of the app, and we sent that out to some of these friendlies, and we said there's no limit on how many people you can share this with. We want to hear what you think. Use it with your friends, because again, with a social app, it's super important that any experience that they're evaluating the app with is social and authentic to their actual friend group. If we're putting them in a group of people that they don't know and that they wouldn't speak with regularly anyway, it is going to give us kind of bad data, because it is not a social experience for them. It's very awkward. So we distributed the beta link. It by itself kind of blew up and was sent around most high schools in America, and was a pretty interesting kind of exercise in private virality. And it felt really natural to them. They could give us really good feedback about what was and wasn't fun about these different games. And we took all that feedback, and games are still heavily used in Houseparty and are one of our biggest differentiators at this point against some of the other video chat apps out there. As well as focus groups, we are a video chat app, so I get to do a lot of one-on-one user interviews very easily. Talk about meeting your users where they are. Our users are in Houseparty, so that's extremely easy for me to add them, hop in, and have a conversation with them. So I'll set up one-on-one user interviews with any users that are displaying interesting behavior. I'll see them on social, posting a screenshot of something kind of interesting. I'll dig in, or we're seeing something really interesting in a certain area of the country or the world, and want to learn more. I can reach out and chat with them. sometimes, you know, what I'll do when I finish a user interview, I'll say you can delete me as a friend, because as I went over, every time I open the app, you get a notification, and it's my job to be in the app all the time. So you can delete me. I won't be offended. I don't want to, you know, annoy you with all my notifications. But many times they don't delete me, and they'll still wave at me, which is when you say hi or wave at somebody in Houseparty, that's how you say that you want to speak to them, and sort of summon your friends online. And I'll get waves often from people who are saying, oh, you know, me and my friends are here, like, come join my friends. We have this idea for a game. We have this idea for the app, or this is really annoying. Can you change this? And it's really great. And I'm highlighting here a couple of funny edge cases that we've experienced in Houseparty, because even though, like I said, we don't just, we heavily focus on Gen Z, it's super important to understand some of those edge cases. So here you'll see on the left, I discovered the big community of, which is still an edge case, but pretty big community of truckers in the US, and truckers being employees who drive freight across the country for days at a time. Their office culture is non-existent because they are all distributed and in truck beds or truck cabs. And here we found out that there was a huge community of them who joined Houseparty instead of using their CB radios, and would just keep Houseparty open on their phone through these long truck drives, and they would all pop in and out of each other's house parties and just chit chats, like hanging out at the office. And I thought that was really cool and really interesting to learn about a industry that I had no idea about, kind of the inner workings of it. We also have a lot of fandoms, so kind of teenage obsession around certain pop stars and bands and things like that. Think the Believers to Justin Bieber. They typically congregate on websites like Twitter and Tumblr and Reddit, but they create very genuine friendships from all around the world. They have something in common that they love, and Houseparty has become the primary way for these fandoms to connect and meet each other. And then, you know, we've done a lot of fun little surprise and delights where people that we know have been using Houseparty for years together, but have never met in real life. You know, we've done some really fun things where their favorite person is having a concert, and we can send some of our favorite sort of most engaged social users to go meet each other in real life there as well. So the second kind of point here is step outside your comfort zone, so that they can stay in theirs. And you're going to have to kind of learn their lingo, learn their behaviors, so that you can make them feel as comfortable as possible and get the most authentic information from them. Actually, I'm going to stay back for a second. I think one of the things that is easy to forget is that the sort of rhythm of your life isn't necessarily representative of your users. So while we might be used to Zoom and Slack, email, all of these different communication tools for our jobs, and when it is your job to kind of communicate with your users, it still can feel like that's part of it. But if it's not natural to them, it shouldn't be part of your job. So Slack, as an example, like I, way back when, tried to onboard a bunch of these teens as kind of our like consultants to a Slack group, but really the lesson there is that they don't use Slack. The most important app that you're trying to onboard them to is yours. And so you don't want to put any other barriers in the way and teach them how to use other apps if it's not necessarily like conducive to the main point, which is let's use Houseparty. And again, with your hours, if you work a 9 to 5, that's great. We love a 9 to 5. But if you're trying to get all of your conversations done in that time, well, they're at school, and then they're at hockey practice, and then they're eating dinner with their family, they're doing homework. Like you won't be able to get the most out of that. So you really do have to be flexible. And all of those focus groups are done in the evenings, on weeknights. and you just have to understand that your schedule and your kind of rhythm is not the same. So this brings me to my phone, constantly tons and tons of unread texts. There are group chats that blow up for a minute. I hop in, I talk to them, and then end up ignoring my friends as well in the meantime. But there's always a flutter of activity between my DMs, WhatsApp, iMessage, all these different places, and of course Houseparty. And these are some of the just different groups that I'm in contact with quite a bit. So another aspect here is social. This isn't going to be the case for many companies. As I mentioned before, I did manage our social media for a very long time, and I'm still very involved in the strategy and the day-to-day of it. When I was running our social by ourselves, it was extremely helpful because I was seeing kind of in real time how people were speaking about Houseparty. I was understanding kind of the language that people were using when they spoke about it, when the kind of the different situations that they would tweet about how Houseparty was kind of interacting or involved in their lives. And it was important for me to feel like, you know, I knew the community that I was speaking to. And I think another thing here was that it was kind of coming from the same person. Every angle of user feedback and information was being funneled through the same person back to the team. But again, I think that you can have a pretty wide team that is able to do this as well. The other cool thing here is that you can start recognizing the same users that are super engaged with the brand and super engaged with the product. You can start noticing trends between different pockets of communities, different countries, different states, different fandoms, like I spoke about. I noticed the deaf community was using Houseparty quite a bit through how people were tweeting about it. You can really start to understand these different use cases that are very interesting and recognize those kind of like hyper engaged users. And I still run our TikTok now, and I use TikTok every day as Houseparty, which is kind of providing insights in 2020. This is the final kind of point here, is involve your team. This is super important. Our team has been involved from the get-go. Everything that I've described has been alongside them. Here's some photos of the team that I brought with me to our various focus groups. These are product designers, our CEO, engineers, our data analyst, and our engineers as well. So it's important that you get all of these insights in front of the product decision makers so that they can sort of know how urgent some of these insights are, and really feel like they are at one with the user as they are building their roadmap and organizing campaigns. They flew with me around the country to all of these pizza parties, and then right there in these groups of teenagers, and still do this, to feel all of those kind of insights in real time as well. And one of the things that came out of one of these focus groups with the product team, so you can actually send a note, similar in Zoom, how you can write in the chat as somebody's presenting, or, you know, while you're in a conversation. And, you know, there was kind of a flutter of activity at one table, and suddenly all of these product designers at the same time are like, oh my gosh, I feel that we have to do this, because of something that some of these teens said, and they were kind of just building on top of each other, which was really fun to see. And it was in the next release, and we released notes, and it's one of our most used features. And it's one of my favorite things always at the end of a focus group is the team time, that we go back, we have a drink, and everyone is buzzing and so inspired about the next release and what's to come. One of the other things that came out of kind of our collaboration with our users is our game Chips and Guac. Chips and Guac is, for those of you who've never played it in Houseparty, it is a kind of Cards Against Humanity dynamic, where it's phrases and descriptions that you match to each other as they pop up, and somebody has to choose the funniest one. We knew that we had to be super culturally relevant and topical here if it was going to be funny. So I opened up a Google Doc, sent it out to our friendlies, asked for their help, but they sent it out to their friends. And before we knew it, we had a full game, and the Google Docs were full of different college students and high school students calling each other out saying, this isn't funny, or this would be funnier if you added this. And it's still one of our most popular games. You can play it. And until recently, all of our games were written in-house. I wrote all of our trivia questions. So you'd think I'd be better at our trivia, but I still get questions wrong. But we have now scaled a little bit, and we have a whole team working on those things. So in summary, find your users, make them comfortable, be inclusive, and you'll be able to represent your users' voices internally and help your company kind of grow for the next phase. And all of this has helped us prep for what was 2020 or is 2020, where we've had more users than ever, even outside of Gen Z. It's been really interesting. And I think that, my expertise is under 24 Z, but these tactics have been applied in roles that I've had in politics, gaming, sports tech as well. The main message being, adapt traditional research methods in order to do product design for any user out there. And thank you. You can follow me on Twitter if you want more information. I write about some of these tactics and this generation, and I'm reachable there as well.
Thanks, Julia. That was brilliant. Really, really interesting. I'm curious how many pizzas you've eaten in the last 4 years.
A ton of pizza.
We do have a couple of questions. Manny had a question about the gamification of the app and how you went about that, and you talked about being iterative. But can you talk us a little bit through the process and how you guys went through that?
Adding the games to the app.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it came from definitely our user research around providing people with something to do when there's silence, or even just when you want to enjoy somebody's presence and sort of be around them, but you don't necessarily have a ton to catch up with, especially if you're doing it multiple times a day, which a lot of our teenagers are. So it was about adding something fun in there. And so we started with trivia. And from there, we just kind of explored different ideas, got a lot of feedback, and did some partnerships. So like I said, we partnered with the Ellen DeGeneres Show to if you guys have played the Heads Up app game, that's in Houseparty. You can play that with your friends. We partnered with Mattel. We did Uno a couple weeks ago, which is super successful right now. So it's about kind of finding brands that we are passionate about and feel like would be a good fit for our users, as well as experiences that are going to be fun for our users.
Cool, great. Patrick Crawford had a question about your revenue model for Houseparty in general. How does that work?
It's a good question. So we're owned by Epic Games at the moment. So we definitely benefit from the full Epic Games ecosystem there. We used to have paid add-ons and in-app purchases for some of our games. However, at the beginning of COVID, we actually made all of our decks and our games free in order to help push our mission of keeping people connected.
Cool. I also had a question. You talked about a couple of edge cases, and the trucker one was really cool to see.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I was struck by during COVID and lockdown, Houseparty obviously saw an increase in users and probably a change in the demographics of the user base. And like my dad and his brothers still use it, and they're in their 60s or whatever. Where are you thinking next for, it's clearly not just Gen Z, and I know that's your specialty, but in terms of the wider Houseparty, what do you guys see coming up next in terms of different demographics?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been insane to see how the demographics have changed and kind of expanded. We still are very heavy Gen Z, but definitely around the world. Like, we were the #1 app in 82 countries this year, which is like mind-blowing. And I think we are definitely focused on making the app extremely simple. We've always tried to be very simple and very easy to kind of connect with your friends when you can. And so that applies to many generations, and making that kind of at the forefront, making it just easy for anyone to join. We definitely have certain games, things like that in the pipeline that will appeal to tons of different generations and different users. But again, I think one of the reasons that Houseparty blew up in sort of with everybody this year is that we did have that base of highly engaged users of a certain demographic that were able to introduce the app to the people that they were locked at home with, who could then spread it that way. And so prioritizing them kind of worked out for us at this point.
Cool. Okay, Daniel says Houseparty VR next, please. That would be really
I'm on it.
Yeah, but look, I think that was really interesting. The learning for me was meet your users where they are, and don't assume that they'll all respond to research in the same way with the one approach. And I think it's a great story how you travel the country and just met all your users, and you keep that engagement up to this day. So really useful, really engaging, really fun. So thank you very much. I think we're going to leave it there, because what we said we'd do a panel discussion at the end, but actually we ended up dealing with the questions along the journey. So I think we've timed out anyway. If anyone does have any further questions or want some clarification, just drop us an email or ping Audrey or reach out to us on Twitter. So I'm just going to wrap up and say thank you very much to all our speakers. I think it was amazing to see, as Daniel said, 3 and 4 really amazing and interesting tech brands, and I took away so much in terms of learnings from all of you. Thanks again, and hope to see you all again soon. Take care. Cheers, guys.